Yep.
Consistency.
Consistency. Boy, that's an excellent word. You know, if there's one word I've heard more throughout the years, and I'm sure Art can back me up and Ron, is the word consistency. I can remember one year, many years ago, when they had the All-Star game, sitting in a bar with Bernie Rule. Remember him? Remember Bernie Rule? We're sitting in a bar drinking. You remember that weekend?
How can I forget?
I only remember half of it. But anyways, I can remember sitting in the bar with Bernie Rule, and liquor really gets you going, because I'm not afraid to say things, and he's not afraid to say things, and that was the key word that he kept saying, I don't know how many times, and I've heard that throughout the year, whether it be professional, or whether it be amateur, or whether it be football, or whether it be hockey, or any other sport. That consistency. That's a great word. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, sir. What I have. Let's see. Are we ready? I'll say that again. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Are we set? Well, then let's go. Where do you start? Well, you start right now. And you start right now because you're here. You're here. And if you're here, did anybody have to be dragged here? Really? I mean, you're here, and that's a good sign. You've given up a beautiful Wednesday evening, missing some good hockey and TV, but you're here because you want to know if there's anything you can do to improve your game in regard to game management. So it's starting right now. Well, before game time. With us, when I say with us, in the CFL, it's a little easier. The whole process was easier because you had a crew system. So when you have a crew system, one crew system, it was easier to work with. So I'm trying to get away from the professional aspect and work just in the amateur aspect. And I've seen, the encouraging thing is that I've seen, since I've come on the field last year, when I used to evaluate, I used to miss part of what was happening. Being on the field has brought me a new fountain of knowledge about what some of you people are doing, and that's really encouraging. It's really encouraging to see that some of you are taking the time and effort to contact your crew before a game, particularly when it comes to playoffs. And with the advent and the use of BlackBerries, and you have emails, and you have all this crap here, like it's much easier to contact people, to get them thinking about the game. You might have a game on Friday night, so you contact your crew, short of a note, looking forward to seeing you. This is going to be a good game. It just gets them thinking about the game. So you've made that contact with your crew. How long did it take you to do that? Probably 2 minutes. So you've invested some time in contacting your crew to show you that you really are part of the crew, and you want to be part of the crew, and you're trying to be part of the crew. Each crew member has a job to do. And I can't remember who said teamwork, but it came from over there somewhere. I could see by the smile on his face. And you're right. What Ron has said, teamwork. Everybody on that crew has a job to do. And there's you've heard the expressions, you're only as strong as the weakest person on your crew. And if you can't help that weakest person, and if you don't help that weakest person, then your game is not going to be officiated the best if you'd like it to be. So, as a referee, you have to bring everybody into the picture. You particularly have to pay more attention and some help to that crew member. And I'll tell a little story. Probably the best thing that happened to me last year, Steve Dash, is that his name?
Yeah. Scarecrow.
Pardon? We were at the start of the game at Sturgeon Heights. We were talking before the game, and Bernie was there, and myself, and Jim Peters, I think. And we were talking a number of years officiating. Bernie, 129, me, 84, and but came to Steve. How many? 17. 17 games. So he got into it. I was refereeing the game, and on the game, during the game, there was a play where a guy came running up the field really late, and I looked over him. The ball was snapped. It was clearly legal substitution. He didn't throw the flag. I threw the flag, applied the penalty, and an opportunity to say something to him, he says, you know, Steve, your responsibility is, you gotta get those skates up. Okay. When you know it, third quarter, he puts his skates up, guess what happens? A guy runs there. And I can see him, I'm watching him, I don't really give a shit anymore about the play, but I'm watching him. And he throws his flag, and he must have thrown it about a mile in the air. And the play ends, and he comes skipping, were you there?
Yeah. Because you said something. Did that feel good?
Well, he came over, he was skipping, you know, to me. And so what do you have, Steve? As if I don't know. And he tells me, you know. And talk about instant feedback and talk about, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but those are the opportunities that you have to take advantage of in the game. Because I know when he walked out of there, he was feeling pretty damn good about himself. You know, he made the call. You know, there are several ways that we could have gone about it. And I say we, not just me in the crew, but there are several ways we could have gone about it. We just said, come on, Steve, get in the game. Like, that's your job. You know? Like, Steve, you're making us look bad. But it was just a, Steve, you know what you have to do? Yeah. And that's all you have to do sometimes, is to remind the person, to bring them on board. Before game time. Does this look familiar, Ron? If you're refereeing, there's some things that, and I expected it to happen, but there are some things that you didn't say, which didn't surprise me, because you can't cover them all. But when you're a referee, and you tell me, what do you look for in a referee when you're not the referee? What do you look for?
When I'm not referee?
Yeah, you're on the field with your crew, and there's the referee. What do you expect from that referee? What are you looking for in that referee?
That you're helping well.
Okay, I don't think I'm wording the question maybe as, what is your expectation of that referee?
Well, that I have a good referee who's going to manage the game. Like, I have confidence.
So you have confidence in it.
Yeah, I don't want to have confidence. Like, Mr. So-and-so is the referee today. Oh, he's going to know we're having a meeting.
Exactly. Okay, so, if you, example, and I'll use myself as an example, because I don't know the amateur rules like I wish I did. I can honestly say that in 32 years in the field professionally, that I never made a mistake with the rules. Not one. And I'm really proud of that fact. I'm more proud of that fact than anything else. And it wasn't an easy thing. I never made a mistake. If you're working with a referee that you know doesn't know the rules, where's your confidence in him?
There's none.
It might be some, because you like the guy. But that confidence level isn't there. When you know you've got a guy that knows the rules, then there's a word I'm looking for, and I'm hoping you'll say it. That not only are you confident in him, but you respect him. Thank you. You respect him, because he knows the rules. Ron, back in January, Ron, you sent out points to ponder? Okay. How many people here, no, I won't. Am I going to be that mean? Sure. How many people did it all? How many people did all those tests for him? Okay. Not many. And Ron didn't look up because he didn't want to see how many did do it or didn't do it. And if you really want to gain people's respect and confidence, you got to know the rules. Pretty simple, isn't it? If you don't know the rules and you're a referee, do you want to go back on the field with that guy? Because he could make an absolute schmaltz over the game. Well, besides the rules, what else you need to know? Application. Pardon me? Application of rules. You know the mechanics. You got to know mechanics. I mean, really, there's two things that you've got to know. Know the rules and know mechanics. As a good referee, if you really want to strive to be as a good referee, do you know just your mechanics? Or do you know the mechanics of the other people? You got to know. Because I've seen it, you've seen it. You get into a discussion. Well, who's supposed to cover this guy? And sometimes you have to be the judge. You have to say, okay, the back judge this, the headlinesman does this with it. That's the mechanic, because you have to know. Because you have to settle it sometimes. And if you don't know the mechanic, And they turn to you like you and I are arguing about something, and you're the referee, and I say, what do you think? And you go, I don't know. No. Big fucking busy help, thanks, I really appreciate it. Right away, your esteem in him comes down. No liberals, no McCain. Have I said anything to you that you haven't heard for the past 20 years? Or 13 years? Or forget how many years? Have you heard this before? Yeah? You? Yeah. Like a horse sleeping with your eyes open. I tried to go out in the field believing that everybody was more important than me. And I did that because, particularly last year, I didn't want to come in with people saying, oh, here comes this guy from the CFL, thinks he knows everything. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to come in that everybody else was more important to me, and I tried to do that throughout my career. That way, if everybody was more important than me, and I feel I'm pretty important, then we're all pretty damn important out there, aren't we? Everyone has something to contribute. Make everyone an important part of the whole picture. It's amazing once you start talking to people, and really start talking. Cal Botterill, do you remember, you heard Cal Botterill? Remember Art when he came to our school about 6 years ago? He's a sports psychologist, and his daughter plays and with the national team. His son played professional hockey. I remember him saying something like, the trouble with, I'll see if I can get this right. The trouble is when you're having a conversation, the person that's talking to you is that you're not listening because you're focusing on what to say next. That happens so often. I mean, it happens to me too. Sometimes I'm so interested in what I have to say, I haven't heard what you've said. And, hi, can I help you?
Yes, actually you could.
For too many players. He came right up and said too many players. The two senior guys came running towards me. Said, no. There was 12 men. It wasn't 13. And I looked at the young guy and I says, well, you called it. And he backed off. Because the two guys were that much superior. I mean, they had been around for a while. And guess what? He was right. He was right. He got talked out of it. It's easy to say, you know. I think I can intimidate some people up the field. I think I can. I hope I don't. But some of you are going to say, well, he's been around, so he knows everything. That's not the case. I know there was a situation last year in the boys' high school final game that, and I talked to him, he was at the session last week, the umpire, Kyle. And he called an illegal block on St. Paul, which right in front of me, it was a great block on the side. And I bust my ass to get in there. And I said to Kyle, I said, Kyle, and this is how I worded it. I said, you call him a illegal block, aren't you? He said, yes. I said, Kyle, I was in a terrific position. I saw that block and he hit him right in the shoulder. And Kyle looked at me and he said, good, okay, I'll go along with that. And the nice thing is that after the game, they were looking at some tapes or whatever, the call was correct. I mean, it wasn't dependent. So you know, it wasn't a question of getting lucky, it's just that I was in a better position than Kyle, and I came in, and he backed down. And I asked him, I said, did you back down because of who I was, or did you back down because you felt that I was threat? And he said, no, I says, you were in a better position, so you had it. I said,
Well, that's the information you gave.
yeah.
But the person you sent, hold him back down. Just because you guys know better doesn't mean that I can't find the person.
So, you tell me something.
About you versus Saskatchewan?
Do you remember something like that in York?
What, 13 men?
No, two senior guys in the game in DC talking the rookie up. Do you remember that?
I can't remember who's the rookie. I can tell you first.
Do you remember who the senior two guys were?
No.
I do. You don't remember?
No.
It was you and Bud Steen. We're talking two senior guys who ring them out. And I'm not fingering you out to make you feel bad. But if Art and Bud came up to me and I was a brand new guy, I could easily be talked out of it. And I can't even remember who the first year guy was. You will ask for it.
Tell me the year, Kevin, I'll tell you who it was.
Pardon me?
Tell me the year, and I'll tell you who it was.
There you go. All eyes are on the referee. You have to look and act professional. If you don't look professional, if you don't act professional, you won't be professional. Looking professional means that your clothes, your uniform, they're tight, they're clean, they're not torn or anything like that. You know, before you've even opened your mouth and you come onto the field, they've looked at your uniform, they've made an evaluation on you. We're underneath the microscope. We're even underneath the microscope more now. I'm a referee chief in hockey in a couple of areas. Why, I'm getting complaints from parents where they're sending me videos. And I'm looking at the videos, and I can't, you know, and they're correct. You know, the technology has really grown, that people are filming the games, and so you're underneath the microscope. You have to be in control. The only time I ever lost it in a game was a game in Toronto, and Kerwin Bell, Toronto quarterback? Yeah, well,
We had him for a while here.
yeah. He spit on the guy, right in front of me. And I lost it. I really lost it. I threw him out of the game. It was when Ross Perrier was the our boss, and he asked me after the game. And it wasn't in the rule book. But I was so
It is
pissed
now,
off.
though.
Pardon?
It is now.
It is now.
Yeah.
You're right. It is now.
Yeah, they changed
It
it.
wasn't at that time.
Yeah.
But I was so pissed off, and I shouldn't have been, because I wasn't being professional, but I was so pissed off that he would spit at a guy. I lost it. It's still. Let the confidence seep from you. Pre-game with coaches. Meeting with the coaches can set the tone for the whole game, as I told you about Ronnie Lancaster. When you go out to the coach, you have to talk and act in a professional manner. Sometimes I have to be careful because sometimes maybe I use humor too much. Agree with me? And I have to be careful with that because
Did she use that humor?
I've always said
Everybody's laughing.
some coaches would like to ask you questions about the rules. Who should answer the question? The referee should. And sometimes we have umpires that are overzealous sometimes, and wanting to step in there, which is fine, but not when the coach asks the questions. Because if the coach is asking you the question, and you answer it, the coach has made up his mind right then. He doesn't know. Now, he's asked you a question. Now you have to answer it. Now you're on the spotlight there. You have to answer it correctly. And, who used the word efficient? You did, and efficiently. And the difficult part sometimes is that you know the answer, but you're not getting the answer out right. You know, like this sometimes, you ever done that? You said something, you walk away and say, well, screw that up. It was here, but it didn't come out here. That, when we did instant replay, I would love doing instant replay. I loved going out there. I loved it because everybody was looking at me. And you know, and I would purposely take my time doing it. Because people were on pins and needles, particularly if I was in the home park and it was in favor of the home park, because I knew it was going to happen. So I would sort of saunter out there and just get like this, you know, and click it on and just pause a bit. And I did it for effect, for the drama. I had fun doing it. I was told about maybe I was handing it up a bit, but
Were you doing the Hulk Hogan?
yeah. professional, collegial, too little is better than too much. Too little humor is better than too much. Because if you overdo the humor, or if you overdo the being kind and nice, you're coming on too strong. So there's a limit in everything you do up there. And there's an old saying that, well, it's not an old saying, but it's like when you eat a meal. If you eat more than what you should have, how do you feel? Feel bloated, right? And if you don't eat that much, you might feel hungry, but it's a better feeling a bit more hungry than feeling a lot more bloated. So you've got to limit what you're going to say. Read the coach and respond accordingly. The coach might be meeting with you for a particular reason. And they might not be interested in some of the other things you have to say. Because you've got your code of ethics that, you know, that he has to sign and so forth, right? They really don't care about that as much because they've got something, sometimes they have something else in their mind. Deal with that issue. If you can deal with that issue and deal with it efficiently and accurately and right on, gain the respect of that coach. And let me tell you something. If you gain that respect of that coach, guess what's going to happen when that coach goes back and he's talking with another coach? Do you think they talk about the officials? Oh yeah. And do you think somebody's name will come up? Oh yeah. So if you can get a coach on your side because you're efficient, you're keeping the flow of the game, and you act professional, word's going to spread. And it's like in any business. John, what's the best way to promote your business?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Okay. And that's how it goes in the ranks. Word of mouth. Word gets around. There are some coaches that absolutely hate some officials. And sometimes they have just reason to. Game time. So, when you come in for, there's a timeout, player injury or whatever. So, how do you guys do? How's things going? These are some of the questions you can ask the guys. How's it going? I heard a question last week. The topic came up about one coach by the name of an ex-professional football player by the name of Paul Beck. And I heard some people say that he can be a pain in the ass. Okay. With some people it's a pain in the ass, but some he isn't. Regardless of who it is, if I'm refereeing a game and I say, so how's it going? And you all say, good, what am I going to assume? Oh, great, that's good. But if you say something like, I'm going to fucking take this whistle, JP, and I can see JP, I'm going to take this whistle and jam it at that coach's ass. I go, oh, I think you're having a problem with that coach. And maybe there's something I can do about it. But if I don't know, then there's nothing I can do about it. And that's what that's for. How are you guys doing? I used to have, sometimes I would have a work with guys. Okay. This was one of the big things. Did you get in a routine in a game? Okay, we all do, don't we? But the problem is, that's what it is. It's a routine. And you're not thinking anymore. For example, a referee, there's going to be a kickoff, you know, and as a referee, and you turn to the guy before the kickoff, you say anything to him?
So the guy,
Your guy on your side.
oh, the guy on my side, I'll usually verbalize him.
What do you say to him?
You got 12? Yeah. Yeah, making sure he's got it.
And you know what? I said this before. He's heard you, but he hasn't really comprehended you necessarily. Because it's a routine. Yep. So what I do, I'll say, I've got 13. And he goes, yep. Pardon me? Because they're so used to the routine that sometimes the routine becomes too routine. So you have to mix it up sometimes just to see if they're actually listening. I did this all the time on the field. Because sometimes the worst thing that can happen in the game, in my opinion, well, one of the worst things, is that the play can keep going to one side. Okay? And the guy on this side, nothing's happening.
Those windy days.
Yeah, how's it going? Oh man, this is boring. I'm dying. Well then, what can you do if you're dying? What can somebody else do? Do something, you know. And I used to do crazy things just so I could stay in the game, because sometimes I wouldn't be involved when I, as a referee, you're always. But sometimes when I was doing work in the sidelines, sometimes or downfield, sometimes this was a few years ago. Man, there'd go 5 minutes, 6 minutes, nothing was happening. I was going nuts. And you know as well as I do that you can get more mentally fatigued than physically, and you're not being challenged, and then all of a sudden something happens. So what you have, as a referee, you have to recognize it. And so, I've done the, do you know Boris Velchuk? How's he? And I can see it. Boris is an absolutely super guy. And I'll give you an example of something that Boris and I have always played around. His number was 52, and my number was 53. And I could see Boris sometimes would go to sleep, and I could see it. And there'd be a time out, and I'm just going to whistle time in, and I'd stop, and I'd, Boris, come here. He'd running over and say, how much time's on the clock? And he'd go, 53. And he'd go, but I broke him out. I broke him out of the spell he was in. And I did that all the time on the field. Because sometimes you can get into a routine that's too routine. It's good to have routine. She's just bringing a tub back. So, how's the game going with you? Any problems with anybody, any players? Is there something we should be aware of? Are any players that we're having difficulty? Any players that are borderline here? The coaches, how's things going with the coaches? How about the managers? How about people that are on the sidelines that shouldn't be on the sidelines? How about, and I tell you, one of the most difficult things for me coming back on the field last year, didn't realize how nice we had it, was stick crew. Oh man, you know when I was working downfield, it's almost like forget you have that official, almost, eh? Because he's so tied up with the stick crew. But remember, they're part of us. You know, we don't bring them on board. Anything you can do to try to bring the stick crew on board, you gain something. And sometimes it's almost impossible because I think sometimes some schools use their learning disabled. And that's not a joke.
Or detention.
Detention on the high heels, yeah.
But if there's things you can do, crack a joke, or give them a pat in the back, saying,
Good hustle.
Yeah, anything.
Tell them that they're being scouted by the CFL. If they do a good job, then they'll move up.
There you go.
Seriously, it's not true.
I'm sure
I
it's
see-
something
you should what?
telling them that there's people watching. You might get more assignments if you do a good job.
Perfect. Almost. At any time, particularly at the start, you can win over a coach or player. I've mentioned this. This is the way you can sell yourself. This is the way that word will spread. If you get coaches and players, and you get coaches and players on your side because you're doing that efficient job, you're acting professionally. Keep the team together and on the same page. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. So get them tough. And sometimes, things like if people don't seem to be together for whatever reason, I really have a problem sometimes. It's easier in the professional aspect because everything is set up so differently. But in the amateur, I've seen guys. I've been to a game where a guy comes running, literally comes running about 10 seconds before the whistle goes. And I know sometimes it's hard, but are you ready, mentally prepared when the game starts, when you run onto the field 10 seconds before the game goes? But you're not. You're not ready. So, and you as a referee have to be aware of it. So you're going to have to take a special precaution with that referee, that official. That guy's come late. I'm probably not mentally ready. And I'm going to be particularly conscious that if that person's on the sideline, on the line of scrimmage rather, the other person on the line of scrimmage has that. And be aware of it. Because before you know it, something strange might happen. And this guy's not ready, he misses it. You're the man. Do the right thing. Sometimes it's not the popular thing, but you got to do the right thing. Be in charge. It's been said more than once. If you allow yourself to have somebody else in the crew take over, then you've lost respect of the crew. You've also got to be careful that if you're not the referee, you've got to be careful of how you approach that referee. You've got to work with the referee. Because some of the referees, sometimes you can do a game and it's so easy that you can do it in your sleep. I've seen games done in your sleep. And sometimes you can do games, because I've always maintained that a game should be evaluated on the degree of difficulty of the game. You can do a game that you almost get everything correct, but it was a relatively simple game. You can do a game that is a really tough game. When I say it's a tough game, there are numerous close calls. Was it a caught ball? Was it a fumble? Was he in bounds? Did he reach the goal line? Did he step out of bounds on the sideline? Time after time after time, where you're making these split decisions. And if those are the games which I feel that you have to be in to make your goals efficient. Now, saying that, the hardest game mentally, that I find the hardest games for me mentally to be in, and even at the professional level, was in the fourth quarter and the score is 52-1. What do you want to happen in that game? Get over it as quick as possible, because you don't want to be there. Players don't want to be there. Coaches don't want to be there anymore. Everybody wants to go home. But you mentally get tired. You mentally don't do things in the same way. To me, that is the hardest mental part of the game for an official to do, is when the score is that. I've seen a lot of strange things happening, and that will test you. Keep the troops calm. I don't care if you do yoga breaths or your moves or whatever else, but you've got to keep them calm. You have to realize it. Is there somebody in your crew that is, number one, has made a call and they're still thinking about it? Have you ever made a call and it's gone on to the next play and you're still thinking about the call that you made? Have you done that? I've done it. I've done it. We've all done it. I worked a game last year in a kickoff, but the downfield official that was with me just blew the whistle. I don't know why he blew the whistle. I mean, he's a terrible ball hockey referee too. Won't mention any names.
No, don't do that.
But without, I bugged Dale about it, and I still bug him, and it's funny.
But what did you say when you came up to me? It was like, okay, you're only as good as your next call, the next play on the field. Get on with it. Let's go.
That's right.
You know,
So I asked a question for all of us to hear. Why did you do that?
and what was going on?
How many people run around with whistles in their mouth? You?
I keep my tongue in the damn thing though, because I did inadvertent whistle in my first game.
And you still run around with it in your mouth?
Can't do that whole wave play dead and grab a whistle and mark the spot. There's too much stuff going on. I was a junior guy.
I sure hope somebody doesn't hit you in the mouth and jams that whistle down your throat.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Do you remember the time, Ron Hellick, when the two sideline guys weren't allowed to have whistles?
Yep.
You guys know that?
You're not older.
You guys play with leather helmets too?
I have one.
Can I believe them?
That's how long I've
Those, they forfeited your head.
Captain's still out. All of them would look at you like, they stop. No, keep going. The guys are looking at you for direction. They always are. And if you can't give them direction, you're in trouble. You have to give them the right direction, too. Now, saying that, there are sometimes where you might not know the direction. And sometimes it's better just own up to it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think one of the worst things you can do is fake it and tell them something that's wrong. And you find out afterwards. And then you lose more respect. I had a coach, there used to be crazy rules before about guys on the line of scrimmage and you can play these, remember that stuff? These guys were eligible to come on and we change it every year almost. And there was one time where in Hamilton, I sent these two guys off because it was the right thing to do last year. At the beginning of this year, it was the wrong thing. And then the coach was going crazy, so I went over to talk to the coach, and he was going all up and down with me. And I looked at him and said, yeah, you're right, I'll do that. He didn't know what else to say. So he turned around and walked away. Those things happen. This was extremely important to me on the field. I always had someone on my crew who I felt was the go-to guy. And the go-to guy for me was the guy that I had confidence in. The guy that I felt was calm out there, collected, the guy that knew the rules, knew the mechanics. He was the guy that if I ran into trouble, I would go to him. And when you are on a crew, you should have a go-to guy. Who's the person out there that you really respect and you know that if you run into some situation that you don't know how to handle quite exactly right, who are you going to go to? So know who your go-to guy is. A lot of times, the umpires and the referees work together like that. At one time, when we didn't have crews, we had couples. And they had the referee and the umpire working together, traveling together. Which was a smart thing, because the referee and umpire formed a real bond. And having an umpire that you had a lot of respect for, and I had a lot of respect for Kenny Pickett, who I worked with for many years. And, I mean, he knew what I was doing before I knew what I was doing. Because he knew it, because we worked together so long. And that was a benefit of like that. But you guys will go from game to game changing people. That's good practice for you, because that way you know you're working with different people. So approach the game as a challenge. I got to get to know this person. I got to get not only to know this person, what this person is like on the field. I want to get to know what this person is like. Like, what do you do outside of football? Get to know the person. Mel knows John as UPS because he comes advertising and keeps sending email.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Preparation plan. There's your pregame. When you're, the nice thing is that being on the field is, it's nice to see that I see the referee has an idea of what they want and what they are going to say to their crew before the game starts. And that's good. You have to. You can't expect to walk out without saying anything to your crew. Whatever words of wisdom you want, or you feel is important for that day. It could be bad weather, so you want to talk about the weather. It could be really good weather. You want to talk about that. It could be the two teams that you're playing. You're playing a team that this caliber and that caliber, so you want to focus on that. You want to talk about these two teams that are equal, and this is going for first place, and on and on. So there's something that you want to talk to your crew about before you go on the field. It's nice, in my opinion, that you can have some generalities and something specific. During the game, to keep in touch with them all. One of the things in the 7-man crew that I found out when I worked with the 7-man crew was I knew
how each official on my crew was doing. I had a really good idea, except one. And that was the side job. I didn't have, he just started to seem like a lonesome polka. I didn't have as much connection, didn't call many penalties, it wasn't by the ball in that. And so I didn't get to know that person and judge him as well as I would have liked on the field. But when you're on the field, you want to know what all your guys are doing. When you walk away from the game, 5-man crew, you want to have something in your mind about each of those officials, so you can walk away. Could be something that really good that they did, what they said, what they did, how they handled something. Could be something that needs a bit of work on, and that next time you have it, then you learn it. And of course, your post game. Post games are really, really important. And I know we live busy lives, and I think the post games are more important than anything else, because that's when you can draw things together. That's when you just finished the game. Try not to be in such a hurry to get to wherever you have to go afterwards. You know, if you would spend 10 minutes, it's so nice to do the games at the stadium or where you have a dressing room where you can go into the dressing room and talk. It's not so nice if it's outside and the wind's howling and everybody wants to get off the field because you're in the middle of Tech Lock Field and it's a 5-mile-an-hour wind, but on Tech Lock it's up to 50 miles an hour. And it's really important to brief it out that what's happening. So try to spend a few minutes. The whole crew and nothing but the crew. And that's what it's all about. We talked about this. Timers are part of the crew. You need to work with your timers. I always felt that the timers had a union and contest to see how many times they can stop the first quarter or third quarter with 1 second. I'm convinced. I'm convinced that there's a national union that they're keeping track.
I never heard that from you.
Did you?
I think it was just taking it.
Again, I had a game in BC Calgary. The score was something like 53-3. You had to punt the ball. And Calgary got the ball. And they downed the ball. And I looked up and his timer stopped 1 second on the clock. They didn't play. Guess what happened? Everything, you know? Like, oh man. Bring them onto your crew. And I've noticed in the past few years that timers are being treated with a lot more respect, and that's really important. Still have to kick a couple of them in the rear end. Sticks. We talked about the sticks, and I liked your idea. It's a really good idea. Ball boys. Man, what a lecture again. Hey, isn't it nice to have ball boys for a game?
We
Particularly.
have T-boys, they're about this tall and they run after the kicking team.
Yeah.
That's our one luxury.
One upmanship. Ready for this? Memphis, Tennessee.
Dog.
Sweet team.
Dog would go out and get the tea. Oh,
He
really?
did it once and that was it. They struck the dog.
You know, you try to get the tea from the dog and you hold on to it.
They kicked the dog off.
Empowerment. We talk about one of the pitfalls as a referee you can fall into is that you try to do everything. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get everybody involved to the best of their ability and to help increase their officiating standards. So remember one thing. First thing is, do your own job. If you're doing a poor job and then trying to help somebody else, well, hold on, that's wrong priorities. Concentrate on yourself first, and then help your other people. And try to help your other people in a way that they're going to learn from it and be that much stronger for it. Give help when and where needed, but the giving is key. I've talked about this before. You know, I don't like doing presentations like this when I do most of the talking. I really don't, because you're getting uncomfortable, and it's hard. And that's why I like input. If I knew who was coming, quite honestly, if I knew the people that were coming to this, I would have had you do an exercise before you got here. I would have given you some homework to do right here, to get you more involved. And one of the reasons at the beginning was for me to get information about game management, because after a while, I feel like I'm talking, but nobody's listening to me. The nice thing about Caesar, he keeps bobbing his head. I don't know if that's because he's falling asleep or not. That's what you're doing. So, I'll ask you, Dale. Anything really much different that I presented tonight from what you've experienced over the years?